But we always make the mistake of thinking that the way to industrialize Africa is to bring in foreign investors. When things get tough, many companies, they will leave. Imagine if they were owned by Nigerians. They won't go anywhere. African countries should start thinking of how they can remove this illusion of democracy. Have a one-party system, because the democracy is not working. Do we make spoons, cutleries in Africa? No, we import all of them. Do you know how many spoons and cutleries you can make from 1 ton of iron ingots? The Europeans, they came to Africa to exploit minerals and return. They did not want to stay. The Chinese want to stay here. Oh, let's increase tax here. Let's increase company income tax. Let's tax people everywhere. Tax. There's so much you can do with this tax. Chinese everywhere. Where are Nigerians? Nowhere. We are into hotel. We are into churches. We are into pepper soup joints. In my book, The ABC of How to Industrialize Nigeria, I made it very clear there that there is no country in the world that was industrialized by foreigners. Hello everybody. My name is Dr. Caesar Osahene Iyayi. I am your advocate for the industrial development, industrial manufacturing of Africa, with emphasis on Nigeria. As you are well aware, my program is dedicated to providing solutions. It's not an exercise in criticizing people in government or government policies. Our program is designed to assist governments in Africa to look for solutions, to find solutions. As a matter of fact, we have the solutions. We have the answer to how Africa can become industrialized. After all, when I was in China in 1979 as a student in the university, China was an agrarian country with a GDP of about $149 billion. Within 40 years of focusing on the right direction, focusing on industrial manufacturing, they were able to transform their economy into the second largest economy in the world. That is not a miracle. It is something that was achieved through proper planning and execution. Today, I want to look at Africa as a continent and draw a comparison with the United States, Europe, China, and even India. First of all, Africa has 30 million square kilometers of landmass. You can fit the whole of the United States, which is 9,600,000 square kilometers, into Africa. Europe, which is about 10 million square kilometers, into Africa. China, which is 9,600,000 or 400,000 square kilometers, into Africa. And you still have enough space to probably squeeze half of India, which is about 4.6 million square kilometers, and it will fit into Africa. Yet, Africa has a population of 1.4 billion people. If we were one country, that's a massive population. But by land mass, it is not massive, as a matter of fact. There's a lot of room. Why is this important? The GDP of Africa is about 1.4 billion, 1.4 trillion. The United States, which has the largest economy in the world, European Union is about 26 trillion. China is 18 trillion. Why is this important? You see that despite our size, our land mass, despite our population, American population is about 350 million people, and they have the largest economy in the world. China, about 1.4 billion people, and they have second largest economy in the world. India is 1.6 billion. They are maybe about number 6 or so in the world. But what is driving their economy is industrial manufacturing. What is absent in Africa is industrial manufacturing. And what I want to talk about, which I have always spoken about before in the past, is that if you follow my method, the method that I have proposed, it is possible, just the way China did it, within 40 years, it is possible for Africa, particularly Nigeria, to be able to kickstart a process that will give us that industrial manufacturing power, and it will be a chain reaction. Because once it starts, we can't stop it anymore. But we always make the mistake of thinking that the way to industrialize Africa or Nigeria is to bring in foreign investors. In my book, The ABC of How to Industrialize Nigeria, I made it very clear there that there is no country in the world that was industrialized by foreigners. Imagine American companies started moving to China in the late 80s and the 90s. Why didn't they go there before then? They didn't go because the environment was not conducive for investors to put their money. It became clear as from mid-1980s, when the Chinese leader that came in tackled the problem of industrial manufacturing, that American companies and other companies from Europe now saw that, oh, if we go to China, we can produce these things cheaper. But even then, the Chinese government did not rely on them. They empowered their people. They had areas, particularly infrastructure, where there's no profit. They made sure that they put their money in there to provide the necessary infrastructure that will support industrial manufacturing. There is no country in the world where strangers will come in and build your infrastructure. When things get tough, like it happened in Nigeria about 20 years ago, many companies, they will leave, and they left Nigeria. Imagine if they were owned by Nigerians. They won't go anywhere. We face a lot of challenges today, and we look left, right, or center, east, north, and west. We said, no, home is home. We continue to remain here because this is our foundation. So the economy of a country should be built on the citizen. That is the only way you can guarantee that at no time can they wake up and say, we are relocating. For example, Donald Trump came into America now and says, I want factories to relocate to America. And you see all the companies are pledging billions of dollars of investment. Up to 2 or 3, 4 trillion already pledged. And they have started the projects in the United States. The only trouble I see there for them is that democracy is beginning to fail America. When Trump finishes his 4-year term, he will leave. And who becomes the next president may not have the sagacity and the temperament and the commitment that Trump has to propel America in the direction of growth. So that is the albatross. In the meantime, the Chinese system is designed in a one-party system where the best and brightest minds are put into that party And at all times, it is only from that party that they will get somebody that will rule the country. You don't get anybody that will come from anywhere and say, I made billions in Europe, and so I want to be your president. It doesn't happen in China. When Donald Trump was campaigning, and somebody interviewed Elon Musk, said, you met Trump yesterday. What did he say to you? He said he just came and said, I want to have lunch with you. And they had lunch and he left. You can't say that in China. In China, the party is supreme. If they give you instruction and you fail, they crush you. They've designed everything to favor China. It is always China, 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 China. Nothing else but China. And that is the way I think it ought to be. That is why when I made a podcast about 2 or 3 podcasts ago, I said African countries should start thinking of how they can remove this illusion of democracy. Have a one-party system, because the democracy is not working. We are spending too much money to run the election. A 4-year cycle. By the time it's already 1.5 years, whoever is president is already thinking of the next election. He's already thinking of how to collect money, gather money for the next election. He's not focused on the business of government, on the business of the country anymore. Look at Rwanda, where you have Paul Kagame. He's been there now for the election and winning. One day, nature will have to take his place. And who is to take over from Kagame? Maybe one man will say he has money and he wins the election. And he starts a new policy different from what Kagame is doing. Look at what is happening in Burkina Faso with Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Everybody is singing his praises. What if it's not there? Who's to take over? But if you had a system where you have one party and you have the best and brightest mind, it will not happen overnight. It will take time. But you should have a plan. This is what you want to achieve. Anytime he's not there, somebody else steps in and they continue the same policy. What do we have in Africa? Somebody starts a program, he leaves, another man comes in, so I have to have my own legacy. He starts another program, opposite. Even if he's going to continue with that program, he will change the name. We are so busy trying to outdo one another, trying to compete to be able to gather enough money to keep for retirement, that the business of government, the interest of individual countries, the interest of Nigeria is not pivotal to people in government. We should talk about a system that will continue to give us the right policy. I don't care who wins the election. When you have a party system, within the party, you decide who is going to be the president or the governor. And it's very cheap. It's not expensive. You don't have to waste too much money. When I did the math last time, I found that about $220-something million it costs to run the presidential, gubernatorial, senatorial, and House of Rep election in Nigeria, just for the INEC alone. And I'm sure that is the way it is in other countries. Then when you talk about the candidates spending money on their own because they have to buy election, you are looking at about $700 million. That is a lot of money that could be put into infrastructure. I made my program to be very simple. It is very lucid. It is not cumbersome at all. It is not record science. You take one product, bring in a plant that can generate electricity. It's trailer mounted, you bring it in. You bring in machinery. Last time I did a program where, astonishingly, you could take, for example, dental braces, and from 1 ton, which will cost about $2,500, you pass it through the machinery process and all that. and you sell at half the price, you are already looking at over $5 million. Imagine the quantum leap. That is what Switzerland is doing. That is what European countries are doing. That is what Japan is doing. That is what Africa is not doing. We are talking about bringing in a source of power, trailer mounted, which is cost only about $6 million for second hand. You bring it in, plug it into gas, let government allow the private sector to use that gas free of charge, because you will end up making more money from company income tax and personal income tax and other VAT duties. You end up making more money than when you just sell commodities. If you have that plant to generate power, you can have multiple plants synchronized. When you have that, the next program is to identify what you want to produce. If you want to produce, for example, these bracelets I've just talked about, you bring in a plant that can melt iron ingot, and then you can make various items. For example, do we make spoons, cutleries in Africa? No, we import all of them. Do you know how many spoons and cutleries you can make from 1 ton of iron ingot? Do you know the value that it will transform into from iron that is selling for $300 per ton, and you bring it in, you melt it and pass it through these plants and make spoons and all that? Do you know how much that will be? It will be a factor of multiplying by more than 500 or 1,000. Imagine the value added with very little effort. People talk about reviving the Ajakuta Sea. I said, that is not possible. Forget about it. You are wasting time. Focus on importing iron ingot into a place like Nigeria. Because we have the largest gas reserve in Africa, use that gas to power the plant that will generate power. And then you bring in any plant to manufacture whatever you want to manufacture, and the expatriates, let them work under Nigerians. Don't go out traveling overseas to beg. Nobody will come and invest in Nigeria unless they see that you have developed an infrastructural system that is functional, it is working. Then they can say, okay, let us participate. Because people will join things that are successful. Nothing succeeds like success. Until you start to do it, nobody is going to wake up and say, let me go and help Africa. It is only Africa that is going to help Africa. Don't have the illusion that one day people from Europe will come and help Africa. Yesterday, I saw a program where they said the richest Nigerian in diaspora came to discuss how he will invest. And he was talking blah, 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 how he's going to invest. I don't see him doing anything. The man that is talking now, how did he make his money? Did he make his money in the industry? Does he even know what to do? Let us wait and see. From what I already know, people will come and talk and they walk away. Nobody will tell you, I'm not coming. They will tell you, yes, Mr. President, I've heard you, we are coming. We have been hearing we are coming now. Since the time of Obasanjo, we have been hearing we are coming. From Obasanjo's time to now, it's now 25 years. We are coming. If you do it yourself, you can start something meaningful that everybody can see within 1 year. And you don't need too much money to do it. If we fail to do it, I want to sound this warning. If we fail to do it, Africa will be taken over by China. Africa will be taken over by India. Why? China has a landmass of 9,400,000 square kilometers. Half of it is the Himalayas and the Gobi Desert. The only area that they can stay, that they live in, is about 4.5 million square kilometers. That is where over 90% of the population of China live, the east of China. The west of China is the Himalayas. So they don't have much room. The Europeans, they came to Africa to exploit minerals and return. They did not want to stay. The Chinese want to stay here. They don't intend to go away. That is why you see when they make deals with African governments, they tell you, if you fail to pay within a certain time, we'll take over this infrastructure. If you fail to pay within a certain time, we'll take over this port. They have done it in Djibouti. They have taken over a facility in Zambia already. They are doing it already, gradually. The only thing that is deterring them now is America. America is stronger than them militarily. But in 50 years' time, they will be as strong as America. And if they make any move in Africa, nobody can stop them. And the Chinese, they are very patient. They can plan for the next 500 years. They can plan for the next 200 years. We have known them to plan for at least 100 years. If you ask Nigeria, what is your plan for the next 20 years? We don't have. We only have plan for 3 years and it doesn't work. Obasanjo came with Vision 2020 in the year 2000, thinking that 20 years is very far. Now, 20 years has elapsed. Where is the Vision 2020? Zero. Because the system is designed to fail. When you have a system like that of China, where you are in power, you are not in a hurry. You make a plan. We want to take over manufacturing in electric vehicles. You start your plan. We want to be able to produce train that can move goods, cargo train. Then we want to be able to produce electric train. We want to link it up throughout the whole African continent. That's how China did their own. China has linked the whole of China with fast electric rail system. More than 95% of China is linked up. They can go anywhere with train. So if, for example, we are in China and want to move from here to Sokoto, you can get there in a train within 2 hours. That is how solid their infrastructure is. It will arrive on time and you depart on time and arrive on time. When you have that kind of party system, you can plan and have a 10 years plan, have a 20-year plan, have a 30 years plan. Regardless of who is in power, they follow that policy. But today, somebody comes in, this is my plan, he's in a hurry. By the time he leaves, another man comes in, this is my plan again. We are wasting money, trying to say we are doing election. Whereas Socrates said it 46 years before Jesus Christ was born, that democracy is the worst form of government. Nobody believed him then, but it's beginning to sound true today in America. See, America is shut down because they cannot agree on something that is very elementary. It can't happen in China. So China is devoting all their energy into propelling their country into the future. Whereas the so-called democracy all over the world, they are struggling, divided interests. Everybody tries to pursue how he can remain in power. They don't have such struggle in China. Their system is great. That is why they are moving ahead of India. Otherwise, in my mind, I think the Indians are more cerebral than the Chinese. But look at when it is time for the India election, how much billions they spend preparing for it. Imagine trying to conduct election for over 900 million people. That is mind-blowing. The enormous resources put into it, it's a waste of time because the results are already known, even in India. Before they start the election, we already know the winner. Why waste the money? That is why they are behind China. Otherwise, India, they are as smart as Chinese. Their trouble is democracy. Part of our problem, not all, but part of it is also democracy. We have other problems, all right. But what we have now is not going to allow us to get out of this tight corner that we have found ourselves. My point is this. If we do not get into industrial manufacturing so that within the next 20, 30 years, if China can do it in 40 years, I don't see why Africa or Nigeria cannot do it in 20 years. It is possible, because the moment you learn how to produce something and you have the gas, which is the main element in industrial manufacturing, source of energy, and you have that, you have the technology, you have the know-how, nothing can stop you from moving forward. But today, in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, we consume everything that we import. We do not produce anything that we consume. It has been so for many years. Nothing has changed. If we want it to change, we must start now. If we do not, in 50 years' time, children that are now Gen Z or so, they will find out to their dismay that Africa will not belong to Africa anymore. That will be very sad. If you are in authority now, you say, that is not my business. Please have a rethink. Have a rethink. We as black people, we have a right to be here. We as black people, we have a right to seize opportunity, just the way China did. Seize that opportunity. It's available. Technology is already there for everybody. It is just for you to go there and take it. It is there. We can do it. If China can do it, Africa can do it. If India can do it, Nigeria can also do it. We are not dumb. We just don't have the plan and the will to execute our plan. If we have that plan, which I have given, let us start from somewhere. Start one product. With one product, everybody will be convinced. Now, in a place like Nigeria, we fight over resources from crude oil and gas. The population is growing. Debts are rising. It's not sufficient to even cover our expenses anymore. And so government sit there and say, well, how do we get revenue? Oh, let's increase tax here. Let's increase VAT. Let's increase personal income tax. Let's increase company income tax. Let's tax people everywhere. Tax, 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 tax. There's so much you can do with this tax. But it is better to have 5% of 10 trillion economy than 80% of 250 billion economy. It's even better to have 2% of 10 billion or 10 trillion economy than to have 80% control of 250 billion economy. It makes a lot of sense. Volume. When you are able to structure a system where you now have the ability to start manufacturing, it's a chain reaction. You will see you move from one industry to another. You sit down, okay, what do you want to produce now? Sodium hydroxide, what do you need? Of course, you need power. All the time you need power. Once you have that power, you bring in the plant, bring in the expatriates, and Nigerians, within a short time, will learn. If we fail to do that, in 50 years' time, there will be no Africa anymore. There will be Africans, so you know what the Chinese will do to us? They won't shoot us. They won't kill us. If they stop our children from having children, they will just go and wait. After another 100 years, you will barely find people of color in Africa. Don't think it's not possible, because 99% of the species that ever existed have already gone extinct. So before you know it, you'll be surplus to requirements. If you are a black man anywhere you are in the world, start to put pressure, bring awareness to people in government in Africa to please rise up and embrace industrial manufacturing. In Nigeria, for example, and in many other African countries, Chinese have taken over all the industries. Indians have taken over all the industries. You can barely find any industry where indigenous are in charge. Only Dangote is pretending to be manufacturing something. When I say pretending, is that he's not actually manufacturing. I talk about manufacturing in terms of taking iron, for example, taking aluminum and make an electric car. You take steel, stainless steel, for example, and make braces. You take aluminum, for example, and make an aeroplane. If you cannot make the engines, the turbines, you cannot make that one. You can make the fuselage. If you cannot make a lithium battery, for example, you can make the chassis of the car and the body of the car. Why not? China said they were going to go into car industries. They went into internal combustion engine, found that to be very difficult. The future is now electric cars. Now, they lead, they are the number one producer of electric vehicles in the world. How did they do that? They focused their attention and started working towards it. When you say you are manufacturing something, I ask you, what is in a train? Just iron and the electric motors, or iron and the engine that powers it. That is what a train is. That is what a car is. So when you say you are manufacturing cement, that is semi-finished products. When you say you are processing crude oil, okay, it's good. But that is not the main stuff. The main stuff is to take the raw material and make it into a finished product so that we don't have to import it anymore. That is the essence of industrial manufacturing. If I had the money, I would have shown people by example what I'm talking about. I regret that 15 years ago I didn't have this idea. Otherwise, the kind of money I was turning over at that time, I would have been able to show some example on a small scale. Because examples are more convincing than words. But without that example now that I can produce, people in government can tap into what I'm talking about now. Stop worrying yourself about going to America to go and bring the best. You're not coming. The Chinese, they've taken over our road construction. The Chinese have taken over our railway departments. Chinese everywhere. Where are Nigerians? Nowhere. We are into hotel. We are into churches. We are into pepper soup joints. We are into buying and selling. What are we buying? We are buying from China and selling. We are not adding value. We need to be able to add value so that we will be able to produce our own weapon of defense. If you are not able to do that, you are at the mercy of other countries. UAE were expecting that America would defend them. When Trump went there, they even offered him a private jet. They thought they could placate him. When Israel decided to strike in UAE, they now found out that America will not protect them. What they are calling NATO. You think if there is crisis and Putin decides to fire a nuclear weapon into any country in Europe, do you really think that Trump will respond? Trump will only respond if he thinks that they are going to fire a nuclear weapon towards America. There is no country in the world that's going to come and defend you if they know that their own life is at stake. Africa is being protected now because of the fear of America. But China, they are planning gradually to come and take over Africa. They are not only in Nigeria, they are in Zambia, they are in Djibouti, they are in Ethiopia, they are in Ghana. They are actually everywhere. They are ubiquitous. Everywhere they are mining our resources and taking it away. Whereas we have to tell them, okay, if you are mining these resources, manufacture something here to be finished products. All the things that they are manufacturing here are things that are too bulky for them. So they come and make it here, like ceramic. The ceramic they are making here in Nigeria is a charade because that ceramic, they bring in all the active ingredients. Only our clay they take. They are making glass here in Edo State, for example, glass. The only raw material they take from us is sharp sand. All the other ingredients, they bring it in. Okay, sharp sand and limestone. All the other active ingredients, the chemicals, they bring them in. That is not manufacturing. We need to be able to manufacture those chemicals here in Nigeria, here in Africa. That is when you say you are now involved in industrial manufacturing. When people bring in cars here and start to assemble cars, they say they are manufacturing something. It's a joke because those parts can be made here in Nigeria. When you bring in the machinery and you have uninterrupted power supply and the expertise to do it. So, a lone voice in the wilderness shouting for the emancipation of Africa, industrial emancipation of Africa. I hope everybody is listening. I hope the world is listening. Our leaders in Africa, our leaders in Nigeria, I hope you are listening. It is not rocket science. It is very simple. Just give it a try. Start with your form of government now. Don't deceive yourself anymore. In every country, get your National Assembly together and say, okay, let's have only one party. No more general election, because the result is the same. Who are you trying to please, Western Europe or America? Tell them, please keep your democracy to yourself. It has not worked for us. We want something that will work for us. Don't waste all this money on election, because right now in Nigeria, we are already talking of 2027 election, and we are still in 2025. All our attention now is how to win the next election. If you remove all that problem, we cannot have more time to devote to industrial manufacturing, how to build a nation. I say all these things not because I'm criticizing. I'm not criticizing at all. I'm providing solutions. I continue to say all these things, and I'll continue to echo and re-echo it until I see it done in my lifetime. My name is Dr. Caesar Osaheni Yayi. I remain your advocate for the industrial development of Africa and the industrial development of Nigeria. Until next time. But we always make the mistake of thinking that the way to industrialize Africa is to bring in foreign investors. When things get tough, many companies, they will leave. Imagine if they were owned by Nigerians. They won't go anywhere. African countries should start thinking of how they can remove this illusion of democracy. Have a one-party system, because the democracy is not working. Do we make spoons, cutleries in Africa? No, we import all of them. Do you know how many spoons and cutleries you can make from 1 ton of iron ingots? The Europeans, they came to Africa to exploit minerals and return. They did not want to stay. The Chinese want to stay here. Oh, let's increase tax here. Let's increase company income tax. Let's tax people everywhere. Tax, 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 tax. There's so much you can do with this tax. Chinese everywhere. Where are Nigerians? Nowhere. We are into hotel. We are into churches. We are into pepper soup joints. In my book, The ABC of How to Industrialize Nigeria, I made it very clear there that there is no country in the world that was industrialized by foreigners.